Hi, this is Nick. Welcome to ISG, where we talk all things real estate in the Czech Republic. Today, we're going to look at basement apartments. I have quite a few clients coming to me and speaking to me about basement apartments. If they're a good idea as an investment, if they're somewhere they should consider living, they're quite cheap. At the moment, the market is kind of fragmented and that lots of people are looking for second, third, fourth floor apartment, and they're kind of missing, they're not interested in lower floors. So these tend to be quite a bit cheaper. So the real question is, what are the downsides and are they worth investing in? So I think one of the main issues you have with a basement apartment is them being cold. This also comes into damp, which we'll speak about in a bit, but they are quite cold. They have very little isolation from the outside. You don't have any apartment below you heating, so all the heat that you create is kind of lost either out the walls, through the floor, or generally up through the building. So you have to really consider the cost of that, first of all. If you're buying an apartment that's already got a heating source there, you need to have a look and think, is this heating source powerful enough? Will this flat be warm enough in the winter? And of course, what is that cost? So also connected with this is dampness, which is something I mentioned already. So in a lot of the old buildings, you won't have very good isolation from the outside, which will mean that water is basically passing through. Now, there are lots of things you can do to try and reduce the amount of damp that you get in the apartment, but in general, it's very hard to stop it. If an apartment is completely new, built from the ground up, then they should have isolated it fully and it not be a problem. But equally, you don't see many of those for sale. If it's a renovation of a whole building, they'll have no doubt done quite a bit of work to reduce it, but still kind of getting rid of it fully is quite difficult. So it's just something you really need to have a look at the apartment and see how it's built and really go with a professional to work out how bad the situation will be. As I said, it can be managed, but it's very hard to get rid of entirely. Light. So one of the big issues you've got with a basement flat is a lack of windows. So, overall, it's going to be quite dark in there in terms of natural light. Now, with modern lighting solutions, you can really make this situation go away. I mean, if you think about offices, quite often how bright they are where people work, and there's not really much natural light coming into them. So you can kind of do the same with a living space. There's lots of light options out there, so you can really make this problem go away. But there's still that kind of feeling of not getting natural light. It does make a difference to people's lives, especially if they live there long term. Now, there is, of course, a risk of flooding, that be from internal or external sources. So if there's a broken pipe in the building, the water eventually ends up at the bottom under gravity, and the bottom may well be your apartment. So that's something you need to think about. Also, if you are in a kind of flood zone, or you're at a low point of the local terrain, then again you might have, if there's really bad weather, you could have issues with more water coming into the apartment, kind of related to the damp issue and the isolation. So it's just case by case situation, but it's also something to think about. So obviously there's generally downsides, and those are, of course, price based. So I think there are lots of very cheap options out there. People have really gone away from the idea of living or buying basements as investments. It was a real hot topic during 2020, 2021, when prices were going really crazy and there was a lack of properties. And now they've come right down again. So I think if you plan things right, you could well make money out of a basement apartment. And you could also, it could be good for as an investment, especially if you're renting out short term where it doesn't really matter, or if you're someone who just uses it as a base and you're away a lot, it could work well for you. So it really is dependent on the price. Thanks very much for watching, and see you again soon.